watching NRATV with Colion Noir.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Seeing Live. I'm Colion Noir. There's been another shakeup with the California case that was heading to the Supreme Court. Joining us live with the update is Sam from Gun Owners of California. How's it going, Sam?
I'm doing great, Colion. It's good to be with you again.
Absolutely.
How are
Pleasure.
you?
I'm doing pretty good. Pleasure's all mine, of course. So talk to me. So for people who don't know, what issue is at the heart of the Puerta case? Is Puerta? I always can't remember if I'm saying it correctly.
Peruta.
Okay.
Peruta. Yeah. Well, this is a case that says that since the state of California has banned the total open carrying of firearms, and they have a virtual ban on concealed carry, because 70 or 80% of the population of California cannot get a concealed weapons permit. The lawsuit said that there's a total ban on the right to keep and bear arms. The original court held against us. It went to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where a 3-judge panel ruled that it is unconstitutional and that the right to keep and bear arms should apply to all citizens of California, and that all they had to do was ask for personal protection as the purpose for wanting a CCW, in essence making California a shall-issue state. Well, the rest of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals took umbrage to that, and they impaneled a en banc group of judges, 11 judges, to re-rule and overturn the 3-judge panel. That case went against us and is now before the United States Supreme Court, where the National Rifle Association, in particular the California Rifle and Pistol Association, who is the lead plaintiff on this case, have asked for a grant of certiorari, in other words, for the Supremes to hear the case. And they keep kind of pushing this ball down the road. They keep passing on opportunities to say we're either going to hear it or we're not going to hear it. So we're standing on pins here, as today we just heard that they chose not to make a decision yet, either way. So that's where we are.
So why do you think the Supreme Court, by and large, is kind of avoiding the issue at hand?
Well, there are a couple of theories based on my understanding from conversations with some of the law clerks who serve the justices. In number one, those judges that are on, who are solid supporters of the Second Amendment, want to make sure that they have agreement, a very good feeling that there's going to be a good positive ruling on whatever case they take. So they're operating with an abundance of caution to make sure that Justice Kennedy is going to be the fifth vote to vote pro Second Amendment, like he was in Heller versus D.C. and McDonald versus Chicago. The other things, Colion, are that there's some very smart people who are members of the bench there, and they're looking at which cases they're going to entertain that hopefully will work to promote the Second Amendment more than any others. And picking the right case is incredibly important. Now, we hope and think that the Peru case is one of the right cases that they should be taking in order to decide that the Second Amendment is important, and the ability to carry outside your home is a constitutional right. Other than that, it's open to speculation, man.
Absolutely. So there's also a new lawsuit over the AR magazine ban. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. In California, back in 1989, when they passed the assault weapons ban, so-called assault weapons ban, you and I know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Modern sporting rifles that look like, full automatic machine guns, but aren't. They also banned the importation and manufacturing of any magazine that carried more than 10 rounds. Now, they knew that if they banned the possession of them, there were already millions of them in possession within Californians. All the Vietnam era surplus AR-15 magazines that every vendor, whether they were a gun dealer or a coin vendor or ammo vendor at every gun show, had boxes, 2 for $5. And everybody bought them. I bought them before I even owned an AR. But they said, they said we're going to make the importation. They wanted to hold the line there. Well, after Gunmageddon last year, where we had a package of 7 anti-gun bills, a state law was passed that said we're going to ban the possession of these magazines. So even though you bought them, it was legal for you to possess them. You use them legally. Now we're going to make it illegal for you to possess them. So now you're going to have to either sell them outside of the state. There is no market outside the state for used California magazines. Sell them to high capacity magazine eligible dealers in California. What are they going to do with them? Law enforcement doesn't want to buy used magazines.
Yeah.
You can destroy them or you can turn them into the police. Those are the options that people have. Well, a lawsuit was filed. Actually, we have 2 lawsuits that have been filed to challenge this law, and that's a really, really good thing. Colion, you know that a magazine is an essential part of a firearm. A firearm
Absolutely.
is not a semi-automatic is not a firearm without a magazine. And when these firearms are manufactured with a standard magazine of 20 rounds or 30 rounds, that is a standard magazine. It is not a high capacity magazine.
Yeah.
So we've got this lawsuit in place. San Francisco, they're weird. They have their own ban, and that was challenged in courts. Went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court chose not to hear that case, and I think they chose not to hear that case so that they get one that challenges a statewide ban instead of just a city ban. So that's just my personal non-lawyer opinion. I think you might be more qualified to give a legal response to that, but that's the situation we're in.
I'm just trying to figure out what is going on in California. Like, I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't. It's literally like, it's almost kind of like they are. I always said it before that I think, in by and large, a lot of anti-gunners use California as a test bed of what they can do across the country, and you know, and the politicians in California show no signs of slowing up, and their fervent desire to basically more or less destroy the Second Amendment as best they can, while still being able to say, no, you still have a Second Amendment right. I don't really even know who to get mad at, you know, because it's you know, of course I can get mad at the politicians, and I'm not going to say, well, you know, there's the whole argument, well, you know, vote with your feet and leave, but then it begs the question, what happens at that point? Now you have an entire state that is full of people who don't have anyone challenging their inherent disregard for the Constitution, and we don't necessarily want that permeating throughout the rest of the country either. And you know, and then if they see that as a pattern, then it then becomes, well, let's try to do this in every state, and then just force them to the outer edges of the country, essentially. You know, if we keep voting with our feet instead of standing and fighting, and I keep trying to understand, is it because of the inherent culture in California? Because, you know, everybody thinks California is like Los Angeles, right? But, you know, what is it? When we're talking about a state that's responsible for the very first assault, well, not the first assault rifle, but I mean, they were responsible for the very first AR. Right. And you know, well, M16, whatever you want to call it, M16, there is a big difference. But you know, we've gone from them being the shining beacon of gun rights, so to speak, and then now they've pretty much just, California seems to have just deteriorated into this stew of nothingness with respect to the Second Amendment. Like, what in the world is going on? That was just I keep trying to wrap my head around it. I read articles about it. I read all these things about it, and it completely boggles my mind. And then I try to prevent myself from getting angry about it. But it's just kind of like, what is going on in California?
Well, Colin, it isn't in the water or the air, because those of us who are fighting to support the Second Amendment have been doing it all our lives, like myself and those of us here at Gun Owners of California. We breathe the same air, we drink the same water, although we try to stay away with that funny green-smelling air that wafts over from the Bay Area every once in a while, herbal stuff. And you're right. What happens in California either affects or infects the rest of the country. And for those people that want to leave California after fighting lifetime of fighting. I say, God bless you. Thank you for your service here. Everybody should have a respite and have an ability to live in free America if they so choose. But for those of us who don't have a choice, we don't want a choice to move to a beautiful state like Wyoming or Montana or some other state where freedom rings. This is our home, and we're going to stay and we're going to fight. And we are fighting an entrenched group of people where common sense makes it has no impact. It is not it. They want to disarm the public while still giving lip service to the Second Amendment. That is their goal. They believe that all crime will be stopped. They believe that all suicides will be stopped. All accidents will be stopped if you just get rid of all of the guns. They tried to take them all in one shot. We defeated them. They lost miserably. So ever since then, they've been trying going after and getting one little, a little bit at a time. Death of 1,000 cuts, But Colion, we can't give up.
No, absolutely not.
The Constitution applies to us here just like it does to folks in Wyoming or Nebraska, or and frankly, if we all left, we'd all be huddled somewhere in Kansas or Nebraska or eastern Colorado in one big ball as the left would be kind of pushing us all in. And that's not America. That's not freedom. That's not what our founding fathers had in mind when they created this country. So this is always going to be the battleground, man.
Yep,
this is always going to be the place where they throw a rock, we're going to use a slingshot. They use a slingshot, we're going to use an arrow. They use an arrow, we're going to use a Armalite AR-15, triangular stocked, solid, 20-round magazine, and we're going to keep escalating this fight until we win. Ultimately, we will win. Ultimately, I think the Constitution will be protected, and in California, it's not protected; it's restored, because we are under, we are bludgeoned by tyranny here.
Absolutely. It's unfortunate, but I'm glad that we do have people like you there who are willing to stick it out and fight. Like you said, if you want to leave, but man, more power to you. Do what you have to do. But there's something to be said about people who stick around and fight. And I thank you for everything you're doing in California.
Well, Colion, your wit and your delivery and incredible ability to simplify key tenets of the Constitution and the Second Amendment in particular have been very helpful to us in getting the message across to a younger crowd of people. And here in California, we have a huge young population, and I need to thank you for that and ask you to continue to do that, because it is extremely helpful in us sharing the word. Those of us who are of the older generation, that have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Young kids don't listen to us nearly as much as they do to you. And frankly, the people throughout the rest of the country need to know what's going on in California so that they can make sure it doesn't happen in their state, and maybe at very least pray for us in California, and then support the organizations that are fighting in California, state, national organizations, state organizations, whatever they can do to help us in the fight. And that's how we're going to win. That's how we're going to win.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate those words. Well, thank you very much, Sam, and you definitely have a good one. It's an ugly day here in Dallas, but I'm pretty sure in Cali it's all beautiful.
I flew over Dallas yesterday as I was coming home from Orlando to visit my newest grandson, and it looked kind of overcast and muggy and hot.
Yeah.
But
yeah. But,
well, anyway, thank you, Colion. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Look forward to it again.
Pleasure's all mine. And we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some gun-free zone issues after the break.